Hello and welcome to a new reading vlog. So for this week, I am just mood reading and trying to get through the physical library books I have and my ARCs because I applied for some more and I got them. So I'm gonna get that reading back up. So they are the priority. I have already listened to some things. I thought maybe, I could become an audiobook person by putting it on when I'm crocheting or doing laundry, something that is mindless. I cannot do it if there's anything that requires mental energy whatsoever. Driving a car, no way, could not. So it has to be something completely mindless and my body is just an autopilot. But I didn't have much luck. I'll tell you what I did try. So I tried Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein, and this, I think it was only a 4-hour audiobook, and I listened to 3 and I could not push myself for the final hour. This really is a study in boredom. I would recommend, if you're having trouble sleeping, put this audiobook on before you go to bed. You will probably pass right out. Basically, you've got a really dull woman who moves into her brother's house to become his housekeeper, maid, wife, pretty much. And just all of her thoughts and opinions on things which were just not interesting. Not interesting to me. I couldn't care less, and I did DNF. The other audiobook I tried out was Earthlings by Sayaka, and I picked this because the cover is adorbs. I love it. And people said that the twist in this is wild, but dude, whoo! The amount of pedophilia and incest stuff in this was sickening. No. I couldn't. The final kicker for me was a scene. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm not going to inflict that on you guys. You don't deserve it. So I won't even talk about it. But yeah, the pedo in question was her teacher. So I no. Life's too short for me to have that stuff downloaded into my brain. So I did have to DNF that. In terms of what, I've got a little rainbow on my face. Yeah, rainbow dash. I am going to the library today, so I'll see what physical books have come in, and I'm seeing my bestie for brunch, and I might go into my other friend's store to say hello since we're going to be in the area. But otherwise, the arc that I'm going to start with first is Lavender Clouds. So I believe this is a graphic novel. I think it tackles the issue of depression, I think. So the cover is very pretty though. I love the color scheme on it. So that's the first book I'm going to grab, and we'll just play it by ear from then on out. And I'll see you guys when I return.
You're in your new shoes.
Yes, I thought it was a good opportunity. Hello.
Sorry. I was trying not to laugh and say.
Alright.
No, I can't. Like.
Okay guys, I thought I was filming for 25 minutes. I was not. So I'm going to have to be a bit quicker with all of these next books because I am going on a date today, which I'll tell you about in a second. So I was reading The Dragons of Deepwood Fen by Bradley P. Boylio. I was really hoping to sink my teeth into an epic fantasy. However, with this one, I did DNF it after 120 or so pages. So I gave it a decent shot. It's about 700. It was way too info-dumpy. There were too many POVs. The pace was incredibly slow and there just wasn't enough dragons and I wasn't invested. So I thought, nope, it's not for me. I will put it down. I think the cover is really cool though. And then I picked up The Gingerbread Queen by Carrie Ann Noble. This is an arc from NetGalley. It comes out in June and this is a fabulous retelling of Hansel and Gretel, in that they escaped the witch with the help of a duck who has its own agenda, but I can't spoil that, and then find themselves having to go back to the house. I will say that Hansel can take a long walk off a short pier, but Gretel, who does change her name, is a fantastic character, but she finds herself at the mercy of these other characters' machinations and in a position where she may end up having to become the previous evil witch of the wood. And I really, really enjoyed it. I am a sucker for a folk tale retelling, fairy tale retelling, and this one did deliver. There is a quiet, beautiful, touching romance in it. It's very PG though. This is more about the vibes. It's got the fairy tale shtick in spades. I would say the tone is a bit more somber. It's not a super happy book, but then the original fairy tales were not anyway. But I did absolutely enjoy my time with it. I've given it a 4.5 stars. So if that sounds like it's up your alley, do check it out. Then I read There Is No Blue by Martha Bailey. So this is an autobiographical account of the author's experiences with the deaths of her family members, so her mother, her father, and her sister. In the beginning, I thought, oh my God, this is a 5-star book, because the writing was exquisite, and the way that she spoke about her mother and her father and the grief she felt from their deaths was breathtaking. However, 2/3 of the book is dedicated to her sister, and her sister was a schizophrenic. So please check the trigger warnings, because there's a lot of talk about suicide and accusations of pedophilia, and it was just incredibly difficult to read. And it did bring my enjoyment down, because to be honest, it became quite heavy, and I would have preferred not to have learned about her sister in this particular way. So if I was going to rate it, it would be a 4, but I will be checking out the author to see if they have any other fictional books, because her writing is phenomenal. But yeah, the start of the book I absolutely loved and was touched by, but the other part of it was just too dark and exhausting for me. And then I read Lavender Clouds by Bex Ollerton. So this is an arc from NetGalley, and I believe it's coming out later this month. This is a graphic novel about being a neurodivergent person. It is quite depressing, but very relatable. I would have liked, however, if the author had spent a bit of time talking about the wonderful things about being a neurodivergent person, rather than focusing on all of the challenges and issues that come about by being neurodivergent in a neurotypical world. The illustrations were lovely. I do think it could have been cut down a bit. There were parts that felt repetitive in it, but overall I enjoyed it, and I'll probably give it a 3.75. And then I read In Ascension by Martin McInnes, and I read this because the gentleman I'm going on a date with today is reading this book, and I thought it wouldn't be nice to discuss it together. So he's reading it because it's part of the Man Booker Prize. For me, I didn't end up DNFing it. It is meant to be sort of a literary sci-fi. It feels more on the lit side than the sci-fi side, about a woman who was part of an expedition into the ocean, and they discovered a trench that was even deeper than the Mariana Trench. And then it juxtapositions it with her trip into space. However, it also features very heavily a lot of toxic familial relationships. Every character in this needs therapy. I found this book quite slow and monotone and dull. It really needed sharper storytelling and a bit more of a plot. Honestly, I just kept zoning out of the book, and when I put it down, I was finally able to ascend out of boredom. So this was just not for me, and I probably gave this 100 pages as well. Then I read Night of Death and Flowers by Rebecca L. Garcia. So this is an arc from NetGalley, and I have DNF'd it. It's about a woman who ends up getting the powers of the god of death, and this is something that if people knew, they would execute her for. So she basically is able with a touch to turn living things to ash. And then you've got the god of death himself, who finds out someone else has his powers. So the FMC comes across as very bratty, very impetuous, not likable. Her and her best friend go off on this half-cocked plan to try and stop this arcane tradition of sacrificing one of their members of their village to the god of death. Naturally, it all goes tits up because it wasn't well planned out, and she finds herself in a situation. I have to also mention, at the start of the book, she's looking at her friend and she's telling you like, oh my God, his thick thighs and his massively bulging groin, yum. And I'm like, rightio. This is meant to be adult. It feels very YA, very juvenile, but basically she ends up crossing paths with the god of death. The god of death tries to kill her. Lo and behold, she's immune to his powers because they're her powers. And he's like, what shall I do with you? And it's meant to be this bantering bickering back and forth, but it just came across so cringy. The god of death walks around swinging his big dick, but he's not intimidating or impressive at all. It was very much felt like a Napoleon Bonaparte situation, and I didn't like either of them, and I didn't really like the writing style of the book either. There was a lot of showing and very little telling. So I just knew immediately this is not for me. I can see that this is probably going to be a very popular book that people like, but it's just, no, we don't fit. And then we have Strange Beasts by Susan J. Morris. This is an arc from NetGalley, and it comes out in October. So basically this is like A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen meets Sherlock and Holmes and a bit of Van Helsing. If you like any of those films, you will enjoy this. It's set in a Victorian Gothic kind of world where the characters are children of famous literary characters. So you've got basically the main two. You've got Hel, who is Dr. Moriarty's daughter, Dr. Moriarty being the villain in the Sherlock Holmes series. In this world, he did kill Sherlock. And then you've got Sam, who's the daughter of Mina Harker. And because of Mina Harker's sort of interactions with Dracula while Sam was in the womb, Sam has the ability to have visions. But in this world, if people find out that she can channel these visions, they're either going to kill her or put her in an asylum. But both of them work for the Royal Society for the Study of Abnormal Phenomena, and they're put on a case to find out who is killing these very powerful men. So this is a mystery. You're trying to unravel what's going on, who's at play here. It was quite twisty. I didn't even bother trying to figure out who the murderer was. I just went and had a good time. It is quite violent. I wasn't expecting the amount of gore. For instance, we have an opening scene where the ladies are in a coach. The coach is attacked by a creature that slaughters all the horses and then gets the coachman, bites off its head, and then proceeds to squeeze him like a juice box. Just delicious. And it's quite descriptive. Okay, so if you don't do well with horror type gore, this isn't for you. I managed to get through it. You know, I don't mind because it's in a fantastical setting. It's a monster doing these things. So for some reason, my brain is like, better than that than if it was just a human serial killer. So that's got that going for it. There is a sort of sapphic romance. The main character, Sam, is bisexual, but her and Hal end up having a bit of a sapphic moment. It's very light, very PG, but there is that undertone of romance there. I've given it 4 stars. It was quite enjoyable. I think the cover is stunning and beautiful, but if this sounds like it's up your alley, definitely give it a go. I thought it was quite well done. I'm sorry if I rushed through all those, but I am going on a date. So I talk about this more in my Melbourne Diaries segment on my other channel, but with Bumble, I've ended up chatting to 3 people, all of them are men, and I'm going on dates with each of them, one today, one tomorrow, one the next day. So I'm going out with someone today that I've nicknamed Mr. Too Sweet. We're going to get a coffee, go to the bookshop, and maybe catch a movie, energy dependent. And then I've got the other 2 gentlemen the following days. And I'm hoping maybe there's just one that I want to go on a second date with, because I cannot fathom having to do multiple second dates. Just chatting to multiple people at once is not my forte. I am a single task girly, so I didn't like speaking to so many people at the same time and trying to keep all of the conversation straight. I was crossing streams, bro. I was crossing streams. So hopefully I whittle it down to 1. We'll see how we go. But I am currently reading, so I'll tell you what I'm currently reading, and that is Motheater by Linda H. Kodega. So this is another arc from NetGalley. It's due for publication in January next year. Oh, sorry guys. That's a long time. Once again, I love the cover, and I think the cover gives the vibe very well. This is a book that is very much heavily steeped in witchcraft and like old school witchcraft. And you've got a woman who lives in a mining town, and she wants to stop the mining company because multiple people have gone missing or died, and she believes something nefarious is going on. And then one day this woman who looks like she's part of an old-timey cult washes up, and lo and behold is a witch or a neighbor from the past who used to live in this town and was also at that point trying to stop a mining company from coming in and mining her mountain. And they try to work together. It's very dark. There's a lot of like snakes and blood and moths. So her name Motheater is because the spirits and souls of humans, once they die, become moths, and they come to her to tell her that their last wishes or goodbyes before their souls ascend. She doesn't eat the moths, they just come and they whisper in her ear and then poof, off they go. I am enjoying it. There seems to be a sapphic element happening here with the main character, Benny, being a bisexual and developing feelings for Motheater. It goes back and forth in time, obviously, to Motheater's time from where she's from, which is, does it say the year? No, but it's before the Civil War in America, whenever that is. And then into the current day. So you're sort of finding out what has been going on and happening. I would say it is slow paced, but I am enjoying it. It's feeling like a 3.75 because like I said, it is heavy with the witchcraft stuff. And it's her father, Motheater's father, was one of the preachers of those churches that did the snake stuff. You know, they would have the snakes all over their hands because no servant of God need fear the snake. It will not bite a true member of the flock. So yeah, it's full on. It's full on. But I am interested to see how this is going to play out. I don't feel like the romance is a necessary component. I actually probably would have preferred if it wasn't there and it was just this relationship between these two women rather than being one that is now leaning towards possibly going into a sexual direction. I would have loved if Motheater had actually been an asexual. I think it would have suited her character more. But yeah, it's dark. Just putting that out there. But hopefully we'll finish that off today. And that will be the final book for this vlog. But yes, I am going on a date, so I'll see you guys later. Okay, so I just finished Motheater because my date is going to be 40 minutes late. So I had time to read. I'm giving it a 3.75. There's a lot I like about it, but there's a lot that I don't. It is very, very heavy on Bible scripture. The witch likes to quote the old King James Bible scriptures whilst doing her magic. So does her sermon father. And so that's very heavy in the book. So I didn't love that. And it's just, I don't know. The plot was a bit weak. And I felt like the pacing was a bit slow and it could have been cut down and easier. And because the main character, Motheater or Esther, was from a different time, her language is a bit more of the Old English language. So in her chapters, it's a bit harder to read. But yeah, I think it ended well. It's still a bit confusing. The magic is confusing, like the witchcraft. I don't exactly understand how it works. And she quotes a lot of names and things that I am not familiar with. So that's why I think I'm giving it 3.5. But it was definitely interesting and a bit different to what I've read before. But those were all of the books this week. So I'll quickly run through them. So we had Lavender Clouds, which was like a 3.75 for me. Strange Beasts, which was a 4. Really enjoyed that. Gingerbread Queen, 4.5. That was my favourite of this week. Dragons of Deepwood Fen was a DNF. There Is No Blue, which was probably a 4 stars. I also DNF'd Study for Obedience and Earthlings and the Night Flowers. I can't remember the name, I haven't written it down. So those were all of the books this week. Until next time, stay wild, Star Child.